Hello everyone, I think welcome on another episode of speaking to the best content marketing leaders across the world, and I'm again streaming in from New York. Very glad to have someone who has bred content in and out, right? I mean someone who's converted her content passion into a profession, now professionally creating a lot of content for the brands. Pleasure to have Molly Ritterbeck with us today at the studio. Molly is the vice president of content in her latest stint at Tonal, right? I think it's going to be a super fun chatting with her. Welcome, Molly, to the show.
Thanks for having me.
That's super good, Molly. So I think without wasting time, right? Let's dive deep into knowing Molly as a person, right? So would love to get a sense around how did life plan for you? Where did you grow up? Where did you go to school? You went to college at Bronx, you said. 15 years into New York. How's life been till now? What have you been doing? And I think then we can dive deeper from there. So let's a good icebreaker for that.
Yeah. I grew up in Scranton, Pennsylvania, so not far from here, about 2.5 hours. And I went to Fordham University in the Bronx. I studied journalism there. And I just sort of figured out, I think about this moment often, like, how did I figure out I wanted to get into magazines? And I don't remember an exact point, except for that I was always very creative. And then I took this incredible English course in college that focused on writing. And I thought, this is awesome. How can I make a career out of this? And of course, I, grew up in the heyday of magazines. And so I thought, if I could do that, that would be so cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
And with attending college in New York gave me a great access to internships. And I just set my sights on, I want to see if I can do this. I didn't know anyone in the industry. I had no idea where to start. And I remember very vividly searching. I'm not even sure Google was as big as it is today. So I was going to say Googling, but I was searching like how to get started in internships. And in my junior year, I stumbled upon a site called Ed 2010, and they posted editorial internships, and they hosted a weekend-long clinic. And if you were local and you didn't need room and board, they hosted it at, I believe, Columbia University. It was $50 to attend for the whole weekend.
Okay.
And I remember calling my parents and begging them for $50. I was like, please, I need to do this weekend-long workshop to figure out how to break into magazines. And that was truly like step one. I got to network with editors who presented at this workshop, and ultimately just sort of figured out, like, you have to apply for these internships. Right. You have a little bit of an advantage being a local student. And I started cutting my teeth at internships early on. And when I graduated, I was able to rely on that experience and some of that network to land my first job at a print magazine, and as an assistant. And
those $50 paid back, for sure.
Exactly. My dad would be like, I want that $50. But it was totally worth it. And I thought it was just the most incredible experience. And it was. I learned so much, especially at a young age, and had the great fortune of sort of being able to work under some of the brilliant minds of print magazines, like the old school editors of, who came up in the industry when it was really booming.
Right.
That standard is sort of unprecedented.
Yeah.
And so I really got to see and learn from a lot of those folks, which was, it had a really strong impression on me.
Lucky you.
And yeah, exactly. So I that's really how I got started in journalism and in print.
That is super cool. And just diving deeper into your experiences of journalism and print, right? You were in an era where digital was not as common as it is today, right? People are writing articles, people are distributing it, physical copies, hand to hand, door to door, right? Would love to get a sense around, and for the audiences, right? Molly's core has been healthcare journalism. I think you would put it this way, fitness journalism, right? You've had some interesting stints, right? In smaller companies like that of a Greatest to working with larger organizations to what we now know as the DoorDash Merediths, back then as Meredith Corporations. to then even working to the likes of things like you said, there was the stints that you had at Hearst, right? You were part of a smaller company and life came a full circle. You started your career at Hearst, coming back to Hearst again. Would love to understand in depth about the entire fitness journalism space, right? To be very honest with you, Molly, I think as human beings, fitness is, I think, if I'm not wrong, the second or third most searched category on Google today across the world, right? I mean, I'm ready. I'm removing the medicines part of it completely, but just the fitness part of it, because everyone is trying to integrate that in their daily lives to whatever shit we've made our lives with, right? So love to get a sense around how did this category actually evolve over the last few years. Also, had you been a part of it, that'd be lovely.
Yeah. As I mentioned, I started my career in print, but focused on beauty actually. So I worked for a lot of beauty and fashion brands, which was amazing. You're covering backstage at Fashion Week and liaisoning with celebrity hairstylists and all of this really glamorous stuff. And ultimately, I landed at Fitness Magazine in a role in beauty.
Right.
So that was really my first exposure to the fitness
And this
industry.
is which company?
I was at Meredith at the time.
That's a Meredith job that is speaking of, yeah.
And so that was my first exposure to the sort of research and reporting around fitness and wellness and health, and building the network and doing the market research. This was really in the heyday of boutique fitness studios in New York City. And so we got this opportunity to kind of go all over the city testing the latest and greatest workout, the newest studio to open, workout with celebrity trainers. And the access that afforded was truly unique. And so I started to get a glimpse of that through just working in beauty at this fitness title. And I was like, I really enjoy this, like going to market events in beauty is super fun. Don't get me wrong. You get your hair styled and you get manicures, like stuff that you can't deny is glamorous. But
were you a fitness freak this time?
It was very relevant in my personal life.
Okay.
So I grew up playing sports, and as I transitioned into adulthood, you sort of have to go through that process that I think is very common for a lot of people, which is like, how do I make this part of my life if I don't participate in it in an organized fashion? And I spent many years and very much aligned with this time in my career, testing everything. Like, how do you figure out what's the thing that you love so much it will stick, So I was a runner. At this time when I worked at fitness, I really got very into cycling. I dabbled in triathlon. On top of the fact that we tested every group fitness imaginable, from boxing to spin classes to you name it. So these things were really kind of running in parallel for me. And the thing I identified most was just how much it lit me up personally. I was very passionate about it in my personal life. And thus I said, this is something I could probably do forever. And the undeniable benefits of it, you'd want to kind of do it forever. And so I think that was a huge driver in how I wanted to make that part of my career, where if you can kind of enjoy the work you do, it feels a little bit less like work, right? And so I ended up landing the fitness editor job at that magazine. It opened up while I was there, and I said, I want to kind of step away from beauty and take on this challenge and start embarking in this.
They're very close categories as well, right? I mean, beauty and fitness
journalism, right? And so it's all kind of related in a way of bettering yourself, which I think is awesome. And so I started there, and I got to train under some incredible editors, some mentors that I still keep in touch with today, and had just the best experience. It was one of those teams that you sort of can't replicate. They just have that magic about them. And so I had such a positive experience in that space that I decided like I wanted to stick with this. So every job I sort of pursued from there on, I really focused in this fitness and wellness space and kind of made that my subject matter specialty.
That is super cool. And I think Molly, I'd love to also understand, right? I mean, you've been in the fitness journalism space for a while, right? there are two career paths people would take in from there, right? One career path is towards the entire sales side of the world, where you're actually into selling the content that you were creating, right? I've seen many people do that particularly. The other part of the career is you stay in content as a space and you enter marketing as a domain in that case. And I think you chose the latter one, right? What was it like as a cultural shock to move away from these large print houses and behemoth media houses to moving into a startup like a Tonal? Because I think when you joined Tonal a couple like almost over 3 years now, they were a much smaller setup than what they are today as well, right? So love to get a sense around how was that cultural shift for you. And this is majorly for the content writer audiences that we have who come from journalism background, who want to kind of make it to the corporate world, but they're still figuring out how to do that. So more for them.
Yeah, it's challenging. Don't get me wrong. I tried for a long time to pivot out of media, traditional media. As I mentioned, started my career in print and learned very quickly that digital was coming fast and furiously. And I knew that I needed to pivot into digital media to then gain all of those skills. And from there, I really wanted to explore a more innovative space. I felt like at times we were limited. And I thought that there was real opportunity in working in tech where we can really drive innovation. And so I looked for jobs for quite a while to be able to pivot out of this space, but it's a tough transition to make. However, I stand by that editorial hires are some of the best hires you can make because their skills are so transferable. Good. And I would heavily recommend anybody who's looking to make that move to remember that and feel really confident in that. You just sort of need to find the organization or the even singular person who can really see the value of those skills. And I got extremely lucky with how I was able to end up at Tonal. The culture shift is big, certainly. In editorial spaces, you're sort of the center of the universe. Like that is your product. Content is your product, and you are the editor. And you guys kind of drive the bus. And then when you shift into a more corporate space, it's very different, There's a lot of stakeholders. There's a lot of cross-functional work. There's for me personally, it was a much bigger team. I joined Tonal in 2021, and we were in what a lot of home fitness categories experience was that hyper growth phase of the kind of pandemic. People are at home, they're investing in their spaces, they're needing to work out at home. And so we were growing rapidly, and it was a huge team, much larger than I was ever used to. And so I would honestly say it took me about a year to really feel my feet under me. And some of the biggest things that stood out were like the lingo, the acronyms that are used in
CAC.
Yes, exactly. TAM,
CAC.
In the marketing space, in the product space, you really have to adjust to those things. We didn't particularly speak that way in editorial settings. So that was a big shift. And then additionally, just the matrix style org, you really have to understand how all of the different teams work together. And where your team ladders up in terms of the business. And it was definitely an adjustment.
No, that is super cool. And I think I would love to also understand one part to it that you missed, I think, when you move to a company like a Tonal, right? Who have a very strong focus on the products that they're building, which is on the hardware side of the world, right? I saw the kind of content that you guys been creating, and it wouldn't be wrong on my part to also call you guys a content company. Effectively, right? I mean, you're selling the products, but effectively you're also getting in people via the content that you have, and your consumers are regular consumers of your content as well, right? How is the differentiation between creating content in a content company versus creating content for marketing in a company? I mean, there are two different parts to this business, right? Because here, your content that you're creating is ideally having a business impact directly. In the marketing side of the world, the content that you create has to be marketed that well, particularly to get the ROI that you deserve on it. I mean, if I were to ask you today, how have you been able to kind of set that flywheel up for making sure that the quality, benchmarks, outcome, everything is in place? Just for viewers, while Molly was telling me before we started this on-air recording, right? you have a stage over here, right? In New York City, right? You have your own studio that you've made. You're not dependent completely on outside entities or agencies for your creating your own content, right? How have you been able to set that entire flywheel up?
Yeah, so it's a good question. Tonal is very much a hardware and product first company, but to your point, we also create content that is integral to experiencing that product and software in the best possible way. I feel very strongly that in order to really reap the benefits of all of the incredible unique features that exist on Tonal, our content allows members to do that. And so in our organization is we have a content team, which is what I oversee, and we have a marketing team. And so, for marketing campaigns and a variety of other channels, our marketing team is owning that creation. There's some collaboration there.
Definitely.
But in terms of under the content team, we do produce and own all of the on-product content, so primarily the fitness workouts. And then we also actually oversee our organic social and community channels, including Editorial. So the way I best describe it is we kind of oversee the content through every phase of its production, from concept through production, through post-production, through content integration, where it gets integrated into our product and software, and then even through on our organic channels, marketing and promotion. So that's the area where we really work very collaboratively with our marketing partners. And we sort of walk hand in hand with them in aligning our strategies. But at the end of the day, the decision to own those channels really came from what you're touching on, which is we sort of owned the resources to fuel those channels. Organic social in particular really requires consistency and constant fueling of those algorithms. And we,
analytics.
Exactly right. And we, on our team, we have an extraordinary in-house team of producers, directors, creators. We have 7 world-class coaches who are influencers in their own right and are constantly creating on their own social media channels. And so to be able to create efficiencies in that space to fuel our organic channels became really important to us. And we've seen great success in organizing those channels within our team. And so there's a massive benefit to being able to work together as a team through that life cycle of content. Because if everybody's aligned on here's the goal of this piece of content, or here's the creative concept, here's the message we're trying to put out, and then it goes through every phase of production all the way through the promotion, you can keep like a through line of consistency there. Whereas if that was sort of divvied up amongst other teams, there's more of a challenge.
More of challenges because it cannot work in silos. I mean, the source of all your content has to be one, right?
Exactly. And so we've really found great benefit in setting ourselves up that way.
No, that is super cool. I mean, this is also for organizations. I see a lot of organizations now building up content engines and buying them from outside. You also mentioned about the part of content flywheels that you've been able to build. You've mentioned about people and the strategy part of it, of how you've built teams and how you've kind of planned the strategy for it in terms of the org structure and who does what in the org, right? There's one part of technology that is very important. And now with the way technology has moved ahead, right? There are parts of technology where you're using it for doing the project management of so much amount of content being done consistently and relevantly. Mm-hmm. There's other part of technology that is used to create the content using, say, generative AI and all of these things, right? So I'd love to get a sense around, have you tried it out at your organization? Are you using something regularly? If not, do you plan to use that? What are your perspectives on using technology for content?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the best part of working at a tech company is you feel sort of on the front lines of those advancements.
Right.
And I feel there's early adoption to embracing those tools. So from a project management and a content management perspective, we are tied to our Coda pages. Coda drives so much of our processes, and we have a lot of custom pages built within our Coda system, and it's been hugely integral in allowing us to, as I mentioned, both project manage but also track a single piece of content through every phase of production. So that's just an example. We use a variety of other tools like Asana and some other project management tools, but I would say Coda is our number one. We have a few custom built solutions in place that were built by our internal team that are very customized to our content production and business, which is super valuable. And then from the AI perspective, we launched, I want to say earlier this year, a tool called Tony.
Tony by Tonal.
And Tony is our still in beta AI chatbot.
Okay.
And ultimately, we are embracing this technology and exploring it and navigating it and testing it to understand where we can provide additional accountability for our members. So we know through fitness that in order to really achieve results, you need consistency.
Consistency, yeah.
Fitness is a long game.
Yes.
Like it is, we are at Tonal, we do not believe in quick fixes or, fast solutions. We are truly trying to support our members in building healthy habits.
Right.
And so currently Tony will check in with you. He'll remind you that
it's like my AI personal trainer and personal fitness coach and personal dietitian, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, it's he's certainly providing an additional layer of guidance and accountability through your journey. And so that's something you can opt into. If you're not interested in having that interaction, you can certainly opt out of it, but it's an added layer that we can offer to our members to continue to build their healthy habits and accountability in our space. And in terms of some of the other AI tools, we certainly are exploring them, testing them, using them where we think they're valuable. But in our experience to this point, everything still requires a human touch.
Exactly.
And the best, I would say the best use cases for those tools is where you can create shortcuts or get a quick start on a project. But we're not at all relying on generative AI for any video content, or we do everything in-house. It's all customized to our experience. It's all very much tied back to our kind of internal brand values. And so we're not cutting corners in terms of our content production. But I think the best way you can leverage AI at the current stage that it's at is how can it make your job easier? Where can you find
make it faster maybe in that case, right?
Correct.
Interesting. And okay, I have two last pieces to kind of touch upon, right? One is definitely on understanding Molly. Today, if say someone is gonna kind of go and start a career into the fitness journey, particularly, I see a lot of people having fitness as a passion. They're still trying to make it a profession, and they're still trying to figure out what can they become except for a fitness trainer. Basically, how does one go about that?
There's quite a few avenues you can take.
Okay, let me ask you this way. Let me just reframe the question a bit, right? How can you become a fitness creator?
Yeah. I'll just speak from my own experience, which is
that's okay. I mean, your own experience is huge enough for us to kind of run through. So
yeah, I would describe myself first throughout my career as a journalist. I was really interested in the research and the reporting and translating the science around fitness. Like discovering facts for, pushing the truth forward.
Right.
Debunking myths, which are so common in fitness and wellness. And so that was where I kind of started, certainly. Also because I started well before social media was a thing, which is dating myself quite a bit. But as social media became more relevant, I ended up using that channel, for example, Instagram, as more of a sampling of my profession.
Right.
And I created around things that I was personally passionate about, but a lot of experiences that I got through my career. And as I kind of went further into my career, felt that the credentials were really important. So I did get my personal trainer certification. I'm a certified run coach and a nutrition coach. And I'm
catching you up after this. Yeah, sure.
I've worked with friends and, colleagues casually, but I didn't gain those credentials in order to train people actively in a gym setting or a personal training setting. Journalists are usually forever students. I loved continuing my education in those spaces. Right. And when I was pursuing those certifications, it is a well of story ideas and content concepts and things that it really unlocked a lot of ideas for me to contribute into my media spaces that I worked in. So I found that pursuing the additional credentials was very valuable and continues to be valuable to me today, just in terms of, I'll give you an example. During print photo shoots, you might always have, if you're working in a really high quality space, a certified form coach or a personal trainer on set, because, the camera gives you different angles and things don't look quite as they do in real life. So you need somebody on set to ensure like this is proper form and this looks great. And so because I already had that credential, I could sort of function as that role while I was directing or producing. And so it really gave me an advantage as I kind of came up through my career to have those in my back pocket. And you sort of have this baseline level of expertise that allows you to continue to kind of edit your own content as well. So I would say, the credentials aspect is really important. Being authentic is really important. And most of all, just providing real value. Like what are you offering? What are you contributing into the space that you can't get anywhere else? It's a very saturated space. And so what's the very unique thing you could offer is a question I would ask myself regularly if I was trying to create.
No, that is super good. I think, the last part is, as I said, is owned by me. So I'm going to kind of shoot out questions to you. So we saw Molly as a person, like Molly as a person. We saw Molly as a professional. Now we're going to see Molly as maybe whatever you like. I mean, we have had people who told bathroom singers and rock stars, particularly for this. But there's like more a rapid fire question on Molly for this. I'm going to shoot out questions to you. 7 to 8 questions, 6 seconds each to answer each of them.
Okay.
And say whatever on the top of your mind. You don't have to think much.
Okay.
Right? Okay, what's the last movie you watched?
I haven't watched a movie in a while. Let me think. In a theater or at home?
In theater.
I think I saw that revival of romantic comedies. Anyone But You.
That's like Anyone But You was recent. I mean, not that old.
I saw
so that's why. That's why you wanted to mention the theater part of it, right? Yeah. What's your favorite sport?
To watch or to participate in?
To watch.
I love watching baseball.
You love watching baseball?
Yeah, very soothing.
What's a comfort food that you have?
Cinnamon rolls.
A lot of calories in comfort food, but you just love it.
Great. Right? Calories don't matter.
Okay. What are 3 tabs that are always open on your laptop?
Looker, which is our data system.
Seems like a data person, guys.
Yes. I mean, Google Slides are literally always open on my tabs, always. But I'm sure there's something else. I mean, I have Asana open quite regularly, and Coda. Those are like essentials.
Yeah. What are the top 3 things that would kind of make you stick to Tonal forever?
One, the fact that it solves real problems. Like, it is so easy to work for Tonal because it creates a real solution for people. And I believe in that, both because it exists, but also because I've benefited from it personally. So one is it is a real solution, which is awesome. Yeah. 2 is this is so biased, but I love our content and our coaches. Yeah. I am a guided workout person. We have options where you can choose to do unguided, and I don't participate in them regularly because I love working out with our coaches. I love forming that connection with their personalities and, the unique expertise that they offer, which is incredible. And then 3 is just setting a great example for my son. I mean, I truly will put him in the basement. He has his walkers, toys, and I want him to see that, fitness and working out regularly is a normal and natural part of a healthy lifestyle. And I want him to understand
especially in
that.
A country like America. I mean, where obesity is something that people have not been very careful about their kids. Yeah. I think that's something to take away from.
Exactly.
I think thank you so much for this, Molly. It's been a pleasure hosting you. You've been a fantastic guest. So that's super good, and it's been an inspiring conversation. Thank you so much for being here, coming all the way from Philadelphia to here. making this a fantastic conversation.
Yeah,
thank you so
thank you
much.
for having me.
Perfect.
It's been a joy.
Yeah.